Filmmaker James Fox recently recounted a compelling story about a possible telepathic communication he experienced with a non-human entity that appeared largely human. Remarkably, James shared this encounter publicly for the first time on June 6 in the YouTube documentary UFO Experts Discuss Alien Encounters, directed by Chris Ramsey. A central theme of this documentary revolves around the provocative question: could non-human intelligences already be walking among us, rather than simply observing us from afar in their advanced craft? Inspired by James Fox's account, I'll also share a personal experience involving potential telepathic communication with a stranger, an event I've never publicly disclosed before. James's story brought this intriguing memory back to the surface. Let's dive into all of this and see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Let's dive right into James Fox's experience with a potential non-human being. To set it up, he said that he had just released his film Out of the Blue. He got an email from Robert Bigelow's secretary congratulating him for that film. James asked Robert Bigelow if he'd like to meet up for lunch. During the course of their conversation, Robert Bigelow told him that they're walking among us. That is non-human intelligences. And then James Fox goes into his own experience that could have been a situation where he came into contact with a non-human being walking among us.
I had something happen to me a couple years earlier, which I've never spoken about ever, because I would know. And even that, when that happened, I didn't talk to anybody about it. No one. And even when he told me that, I still didn't talk about it, because I had saw something one time in 2007. I made eye contact with this individual, and it was like an immediate, and I'd never really considered this even in the realm of possibility. And I still don't know what I think, to be honest with you, what I really believe at the end of the day. But, we had a telepathic, just like that.
Can you describe what the situation was and what this individual looked like?
I don't know if I want to go public fully on where it was, but it happened in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah. And the individual looked like relatively a normal person. And the individual, I remember, was doing moving a chair or something like that. And this individual sensed that I was looking at him for whatever reason, kind of doing this, maybe dragging a chair, and then turned around and looked me right in the eyes. And it was like, holy shit. Like in myself, I wasn't scared, but it was like, you're not human. But it was really, the individual knew that was the communication that the individual gave to me, and knew that I had received it. And
it knew that you knew.
Yes. In an instant. And I knew, it knew, and I was okay. Big blue, electric blue eyes, piercing, freeze in your tracks when you got when I made eye contact. I never told a soul, because that's a crazy guy. And I don't know I don't even know what I saw.
So
I'm just telling you that was the communication that happened, and it happened like that, like that. And I wasn't scared.
What did they look like?
The eyes?
No, what did the person look like? Was
like
it
a normal person, dark skin?
Yeah.
Relatively. Not sure of the ethnicity. I'm not.
Wasn't
sure.
Swedish or anything. Wasn't Scandinavian.
No.
Absolutely fascinating story from James Fox. And in fairness to James, he says he doesn't know what to make of it, so he's not making any claims. I'll go into my story, probably not as impressive as James' story, but I've never forgotten it. So I'll never forget, I was in Los Angeles, and it was sunny out, and I was walking on the sidewalk, and there was a woman about, I don't know, maybe 20 anywhere from 10 to 30 feet ahead of me. I don't recollect the precise distance. But I made a silent prayer on her behalf as I was watching her walk. And right afterwards, I kid you not, she stops walking abruptly. She turns around and she waves at me. Then she turns back around and continues walking. I don't remember that part as well. I'm assuming that's what she did. But I do remember very keenly that right when I was done, or relatively keenly, right when I was done making that prayer, she stopped in her tracks. She turned around, she waved at me. Now, I don't know if that's just a coincidence. Just like James, I'm not making any claims. But if that is a coincidence, that is a pretty amazing coincidence. Do I think it's plausible that this woman knew that I prayed for her? She knew, she detected my intentionality toward her. She felt it, she experienced it. So she turns around and waves at me as a result. I don't know what to make of that. It's obviously extremely bizarre. And I'm not suggesting that this woman is an extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence, but if she is a human being and she did turn around to wave at me because she detected my prayer, then boy, she's very psychic. We could say that. And it was funny. Like her wave was like, it was like really enthusiastic. And I don't, not that it matters, but I think it was an Asian woman, if I recall correctly. Now, getting back to James Fox's story, one of the most interesting part of that is when he said that he sensed that the being, whatever it was it a human being, was it non-human intelligence, that it knew that James received the telepathic communication just as James knew it received it from the entity or the being. And while James didn't say it very explicitly, I get the impression that somehow the being communicated to him that I'm not human. And then this ties back to what Robert Bigalow told James Fox when he had lunch with him, which is that they're walking among us. Now, that's not a conversation we're ready to have at this stage in the disclosure process. That's a conversation that will be more appropriate for a post-disclosure world. And I'm not claiming they're walking among us. I have no idea. But still, after disclosure, the proposition that there are non-human beings that look similar enough to human beings walking among us would no longer be implausible, would no longer be outlandish. Simply because the moment you have verification scientifically that we're being engaged by non-human intelligence, then the idea that some of these beings are walking among us is not a leap anymore whatsoever. And that's kind of the magic of a post-disclosure world. Some people complain. I've heard this complaint from multiple people within the UFO community. They complain that we don't talk enough about the beings. We're always talking about the technologies, the saucers, the triangles, the tic-tacs, the various ways that these objects or technologies are seen and experienced. But we never talk about the beings, or we don't focus on the beings sufficiently. And to those people, I would say, yeah, we're never going to actually focus on the beings until it's a post-disclosure world, because we are in a pre-disclosure world. We are in a place where we believe something's going on, but we don't have scientific proof. Now, some people allegedly have had encounters, so they know for themselves, but most of us aren't them. So collectively, we're not going to talk about the beings until we reach a stage where we know for a fact that we're not alone and we're being engaged by non-human intelligence. I want to push back against Robert Bigalow just a little bit. In the following clip, James Fox relays something Robert Bigalow told him when they had lunch.
And we had lunch, and he started talking about, the implications of disclosure, the impacts on society. I remember him saying, you take every scandal from Iran-Contra to Monica Lewinsky, all these scandals in the history of modern history, and multiply them, the impact those have had, multiply that by 1 million. And that's the impact, this reality would have on the general public. And I remember thinking, come on, really? You really think so? I've always thought we really had this unifying effect on everybody.
I just don't think it's a good comparison. That is comparing scandals like Iran-Contra, Monica Lewinsky, and various historical scandals, multiplying them all together, and then multiply that by 1 million, and that's the impact disclosure would have, which is what, according to James Fox, Robert Bigalow stated. And I don't like that comparison, because you can't study scandals scientifically. Scandals don't impact your spiritual or religious beliefs. They don't impact sociology, at least not nearly to the extent learning we're not alone in the universe would. They don't really impact culture. Nothing about scandals impacts society the way learning something as transformative as we're not alone in the universe would. So I don't like that comparison. And I think we need to stop with the excuses to keeping this clarity about our universe classified and hidden from the masses. I think we need to disclose. And I think that one of the biggest impacts of disclosure is immediately the universe becomes exponentially more interesting, because now there's more texture and nuance and mystery and intrigue that there never was before. Look, I love the animal kingdom, and I love physics and astronomy. I think they're all fascinating fields, but you put non-human intelligence into the pile, and now science gets even way more interesting. History, spirituality, religion. It's like it elevates everything so significantly. You see the entire universe through a new lens just by learning we're not alone, just by learning there's non-human intelligences engaging our world. And to hold that back from humanity in the name of what? I mean, that's just crazy. Yeah, it would maybe be a little scary and a little concerning, but I think the fascination of it and the intrigue would exponentially outweigh any existential concerns. No one's getting out of this life alive anyways, right? While we're here, we might as well learn the depth of our universe, the depth of our heritage. And we'll leave it at that. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my YouTube members page. You can become a patron. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below. Or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.